Hello, everybody. It's Lisette. It's Saturday morning, about 3 days after the event. So I'm finally sitting down to answer the questions that people posed during the talk. I really appreciate all the questions that came in. And so I just wanted to make sure that we got them answered. So I'm going to share my screen and show the questions just as I answer them. So we'll just start from the top. And of course, I will. I'm not using my fancy tool today because it's Saturday. So I just set up my lovely room divider, and I've got a big beam of sun coming in, as you can see. But it's winter, so I don't want to lose any sun either. Okay, so the first question is about replacing synchronous communication by asynchronous. Isn't it just moving the problem elsewhere, knowing that a lot of people are also crawling under thousands of mails? Yeah, so it's a really good question. It's not that you're moving the problem elsewhere, it's that it's a new way of working, and in this new way of working, asynchronous becomes important. However, it is the level of importance is also based on the maturity and the need of the company, right? If you are just, if you're mostly working together in the office and only occasionally working from home, then perfecting your asynchronous communication isn't going to be as important as if you are a company with people who are globally distributed all over the place or working with people in a lot of different time zones. So it needs to, the appropriateness needs to match the context on asynchronous. So yes, in some ways you're moving the problem to a different area, except for that when we're working remotely, it's a different way of working. So we're moving the problem, but actually we're putting it in its proper place, I think. So I would say, I'm sort of rambling here, but in answer to the question, it depends, your company's need for asynchronous is going to depend on how remote it wants and needs to be. There are issues with asynchronous, just like there's issues with synchronous. So that's why I'm saying it's important to find a balance, but you need to first figure out what level do you need? And then how are you going to get good at it? Because indeed, the downside of asynchronous is just so many messages. And I personally struggle this with myself. I just get like 100+ emails a day from people asking questions and wanting things, and I'm doing my best, but you just get buried at some point. So yeah, it's a matter of prioritization, of course, just like anything. But really good question. I still really think that if you're going to be maturely remote, that you really need to get good at asynchronous communication. And it's not just about text messages. It's about how you store how you create and design your information architecture. And then I'd put team agreements in place so that you don't get buried. Like no emails on the weekends or after 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. I don't answer. Putting boundaries for yourself and then communicating those to your team. Okay, but I'm belaboring the point now. Let's move on to the next question. So as we go to the next question, I will share my screen again. So here we go. Any tips for teams working on different time zones? Yes, I do have some time zone tips. I think I answered this during the conference, but I'll just say again, I've got sort of the top 3 are: 1, organize yourself really well. If you're going to be doing follow the sun, then organize yourself and follow the sun. Otherwise, maybe you want to have 2 separate teams that don't necessarily rely on each other too much. If you're working in an agile way, sometimes you have 2 scrum masters that are talking to each other, and then the scrum masters are really the ones that are communicating. So really how you organize your team when you're in different time zones is really going to matter. So if you really need a lot of overlap time and you've got people in the US and Australia, it's going to be rough. I mean, it's going to be really hard. So don't organize your team so that people are really dependent if you have time zones that are really far away. Easier said than done, I recognize, but that's in general the tip. So organize yourself well, share the pain. If somebody's always getting up at 4 a.m. or somebody's always got meetings at 10 p.m., switch it up so that it's not painful for one person or one group of people all the time. So if you have to sync with each other during really annoying time zone times, make sure you share the pain. And then the last one is, of course, asynchronous communication, getting good at video communication, video messaging like Loom, your information architecture, your team agreements, asynchronous communication when you're in time zones far apart. That's going to be the key to your success, sadly. Time zones are tough. We can't squeeze the world closer together. It's a physics problem, right? But we can do better. So that's the idea. I've also got a page on my website. I'll try to send that out, make a note to myself. I'll send that out along with this video to people so that you can access some good time zone tips. Okay, next question. Here we go. Remote working incurs higher number of meetings. People are multitasking more during meetings to catch up with work not done. Tips on how to fight it and increase meeting efficiency. Oh yeah, I've got a whole class on this. So I really am a believer in online meetings need to be like when you're painting a room. The work is in the prep work for the meeting. The meeting is just the result. That's just when you put the color on the wall, right? But the prep work is actually really important. Every meeting needs to have an agenda and a purpose, and why are those particular people invited to meetings? I would say you want to keep your meetings as small as necessary. That goes for in-person as well. It's just, you know, a lot of these things go for in-person as well as remote. It's just that with in-person, or with remote, it's critical. So if, you know, having your agenda, having a really clear purpose, a timekeeper, somebody who's facilitating. So yes, you're right, on working remotely does require more meetings sort of, but I would say you want to organize yourself in a way where you can go from asynchronous to synchronous communication really easily. Like in Slack, for instance, you can just push a button and be in a video call, or sending Loom videos, or working in a virtual office like Remo or Welo or Sakoko, and there's a million of them out there. I'm just trying things like that out. So you really have to get good at online meetings. So I recommend getting yourself training on it. There's lots of great trainings out there. My company offers training, and as long, you know, and others too, but of course I'll recommend mine. But take a remote meetings masterclass, or how to design online events, something like that, just to get an idea for why online meetings should be different. Okay, next question. Is intercultural company, from my point of view, easier or more complicated to apply with my recommendation? I'm not quite sure I understand. So is intercultural, from my point of view, easier or more complicated? So I'm going to answer what I think the question is about. And if you have further needs, just email me, Lisette@lisettesutherland.com. But in terms of intercultural, the way I define culture on a team, it's very loose. And let me put a disclaimer on this. I am by no means a cultural expert at all. I realize that you can take whole workshops out there that last like a week, and you can learn all about the different cultures and how they work together. I am nowhere near that level. But what I define culture as is what is normal behavior for our team. And that's where the team agreements come in, where we just start to write out our assumptions as we realize what they are, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know about another culture, right? So sometimes it's hard to even break through to what the assumptions are that we're actually making. So that's why team agreements. How are you going to communicate with each other? Expected response times. You know, if somebody's nodding their head yes, then maybe it means yes, or maybe the team recognizes that this is just, you know, it's just somebody acknowledging that they've heard you. So, you know, just putting these kind of things into a team agreement will help cultures work together. And then really, if you're struggling with intercultural issues, I would definitely suggest a training about culture, because there's a lot of things to recognize for everybody. So then get in a really experienced intercultural trainer. There's a facilitator of mine named Lena Morkbach, and she is a professional facilitator on international or intercultural remote teams. Recommend contacting her if you need her information. It's on my website, but of course, just email me if you need more information. So that's on intercultural. I really believe team agreements are the first step. And then after that, more significant training. Okay, I'll share the screen again. And how to protect ourselves and allow real disconnection. It's more difficult to put the limit and disconnect. Oh man, this is a great one. And I can say, I struggled with this myself. As you can see, it's Saturday morning. It's 11:30 on Saturday morning, and I'm recording Q&A videos because it's something that I didn't get done through the week. However, I will say that at noon on Saturday, so within 34 minutes, I do shut down the computer. Everything that didn't get done last week, it just didn't get done last week. I've done my best. I've worked all I could. It just didn't get done. So at some point, I do actually disconnect. And then I allow myself all the way until Monday morning. I don't read emails, anything. So the key to disconnection is sadly putting our own boundaries in place. When we went into the office before, those boundaries were sort of there by nature, right? You left the house, you went into a different location. And then when you left the office, you went back, you went away from that location. So indeed, as remote workers, those work-life things blend, and we need to put things in place for ourselves that create those boundaries. My husband will take a walk around the neighborhood before he settles into work. When he's not allowed to go to the office. So that's his commute. And then he does the same thing at the end of the day. So that's sort of a startup and a wind down ritual. So I would suggest create rituals that work for you. Experiment with what works. Sometimes something works for a little while and then it stops working. So it's sort of an evolution that we all have to live with, but just recognize you're not crazy. It's really hard. It's really hard to put boundaries in place for ourselves. I mean, if you've ever tried losing weight, we know the rules, right? Eat less and move more, but doing it is very difficult, especially when there's delicious chocolate around. So, okay, so put boundaries in place for yourself and be patient and gentle with yourself as well. Let's see, moving right along here. After subscribing to Collaboration Superpowers, how can we receive the Super Kit? I received an email with 36 great tips and virtual meeting cards and nothing about the Super Kit. I see. Yeah, you should have by now received the Super Kit. I have still not had time to build proper workflows into my sign-up system. So at the moment, everything's a bit clunky. That's what December is for, when I have time to relax. So I apologize for the clunky nature of the sign-up process or getting the Super Kit. I'm still working on it. It's just one of those things that's on the list, and it's still on the list because other things like this awesome conference have priority. But if you didn't get it, just let me know. I will get it to you. Okay, last question, I believe. So last one. Efficiency of remote meetings with teams is clear now, but what about meetings requiring management or hierarchical responsibility like steering or decisional meetings? So what I would say is I'm going to just harp on this again, which is I really believe that all meetings need to have a little bit more care and planning in them. That goes for in-person as well as remote, but with remote, it's critical. So all of these management meetings, hierarchical responsibilities, I believe it's everybody's job in an organization to be proactive and efficient with their online meetings. This hybrid way of working seems to be, it's going to be the new normal for the foreseeable future. So it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that it works well. I don't know if that's a great answer, but I would just say start having really good online meetings. You'll become known for it in your organization pretty quickly because one, people will enjoy coming to your meetings and you're going to be way more efficient than other people. So it's noticeable. I've actually seen this happen in a number of different companies before. One I can just talk about that happened earlier this year was with Xero, the company, the bookkeeping company. They started taking my remote meetings masterclass, and after a while, people started noticing that the ones who had taken the masterclass, their meetings were so much better and more organized and enjoyable than people who had not taken the class, that they actually started a whole remote meetings masterclass program within their organization. So I don't take good online meeting facilitation lightly. I think it's extremely important. It's a whole new skill. We've gotten lazy in our meeting facilitation because it's just, we can, when we're in person, you can be sloppy and lazy. When we go online, it kind of becomes a disaster really quickly, especially over long periods of times like this pandemic. Okay, I hope I've answered your question sufficiently. Thank you for the opportunity again and for the questions. And if you have more, please contact me. Yes, Lisette at lisettesutherland.com. I can't promise you an answer quickly, but I will answer. That's how it goes. All right. Au revoir.